Hello, everyone, and welcome back after a short break. I hope the earlier sessions have been very interesting for the audience, and we continue with the same passion and the same energy post the lunch break or the break that we had. So great to see everyone out here. And today I have two interesting people. One is Sir Chef Harpal Singh Sokhi. He is one of the lead, or I could say the most influential or the most promising chef in this domain. And we have been interacting with him for the last couple of years, and he has given us the right energy to understand this domain because clearly people come from a vision of research, and for us, understanding the customer feedback is almost out of context, and we do not have the right thought process on those lines. But he has been a guide to us in that domain and helping us understand the whole concept. Apart from Sir, we have Ahmed, who is a very nice moderator, I would say, because he had just conducted one interesting session, and he parallelly works in the domain of CELAC, especially runs a company by the name of CELAC, which is a platform for various stakeholders from investors to companies in alternative protein to people who want to understand the domain, providing the right information and right
Yeah.
strategies to make sense to this domain. So I would not waste much of time in introduction, and let's jump into the thought process. So this
Sure.
session would take care of the market trends and the consumer acceptance when it comes to cultivated meat or lab grown meat or cell based meat. So I will immediately ask Sir Harpal sir to give your feedback. What do you feel this product is and how it would be inducted in the audience?
So, hi, good afternoon, everybody. And as a chef, I tell you what's important is that we've seen in the last 3 years or 4 years, or in India especially, the domain of cooking, the domain of ingredients, the domain of newness changed to such an extent that you need to actually wake up every day and read about things, that what is new and how can you adapt to it. So I could be one person who's excited about newness and new things, but is the country ready for it? I'm not sure about it. That is an honest answer, I would say. Having said, when you talk about cell-based meat, uh, it is something which is a complete new topic for most people in the country. Although it's very exciting, but it is a complete new topic. It could probably, lead to making the environment a little more healthier, which is a great acceptance when you talk about this subject, this side of it. But when you talk as a chef, have we used this product? No, we have not used this product. Have we seen this product? No, we have not seen this product. Has the country seen this product? No, the country has not seen the product. For me as a chef, I recently remember I was in Boston in my restaurant, and next door, not just your ordinary Joe's, there's a restaurant, burger, lounge bar restaurant, just next to my restaurant. And my friend ordered a Beyond Meat burger. And I remember, when he showed me that, and that was my first, I would say, visual look of what the product actually looks like. And when I saw that, I said, yes, this is something which is required probably. Okay, this is something which is beautiful, because as a chef, the color, the texture, the feel, the juiciness, everything that what a chef needs to know or what a chef finds in a burger was visible there. And that excited me. And ever since then, I remember I was like, I said, okay, I'm carrying back some knowledge when I would be actually speaking in this forum. And that's quite exciting. But to put together, this is a new domain which definitely would require a lot of education through various channels, I would say. And would there be acceptance? I think there would be, because after my experience, and as a person who understands taste very well and have I've got the opportunity to taste recently. I think there is something which is there in the product, and which will be accepted very well in time to come if done rightly, I would say.
It's great to see that you have tried the Beyond Meat. Beyond Meat, however, is a plant-based alternative. But coming from a cultivated meat thought process,
Yeah,
my main concern, I totally accept your thought that it has to be put in the right ways for the audience to accept it. And
correct.
what do you feel would be the right strategy to make it market presentable or give it an entry point?
So, just look at the simple. You are trying to replicate something, so you need to replicate the core product to the T level. Okay, if it is, for example, if I were to look at how you would consume meat, if it is a goat meat or a chicken meat, for that matter, if it is a goat meat, for example, so you need to have that look, feel, color of the goat meat exactly the same way it should look like. I mean, if it is a cell-based meat, the look feel should be exactly the same. If you are replicating it, or if you are saying that okay, this is an alternative to chicken, then probably it should look like completely like chicken. That is the first. That is the first thing that would actually uh, be a winning scope. Okay, winning point for whoever develops this product. And the next step would be okay, the way it works in a cooking medium. That is how it should exactly look, or the end product when you cook in a tandoor, when you cook in a oven, when you grill the product. Okay, how it works, that visual feel should exactly be same. Finally, the taste of the product should be same, and if it is not close to what the original meat is, then it is another product. You're not looking at replacing the non-veg product. You are saying that I've got another product. It's like, okay, if you are to look at probably plant-based meat in India is always there. It was always there in some form or the other, because you were eating protein in legumes, you were eating proteins through soya, paneer, whatever. You could shape them in any form. Now that you have extruded it and given a new shape to it, added some value and made it little more fibrous, like the way the soya granules are, uh, it's still not. It is still another product. So if you were to replace, and if you are talking that okay, the meat product exactly, what is a lab grown meat is a replacement of the main meat, then there should be clear comparisons, which should be as close as possible. And that's what, as a chef, I would feel that if that comparison is not there, then you are entering a market by saying that, okay, I've got another product, which is an alternative, which is not a complete replacement, but it is an alternative. You can try that also.
So it's very glad because you rightly said you need to have the right taste and texture to the whole thought process. But as a chef, what do you feel? Or it can be a very generic response.
Yeah.
I'm not asking for a specific thought. Do you feel which has more which will have more market acceptance, plant-based alternative or an animal-based alternative?
I think an animal-based also, 100%, because I feel that if you are looking at India, uh, India is still predominantly 70% is a non-vegetarian market. Okay, the recent aggregators who created this chain of supply chain of meat products, they were themselves surprised, and I have been interacting with their MDs, and they themselves are surprised the kind of consumption happens across in India. And India is 70% non-vegetarian, which I strongly believe is very true as far as the data is concerned. So if from that 70%, if you were to take a chunk that's saying that, okay, I take a chunk of this 70%, don't even think of talking to the vegetarians that have got a cell-based meat product. Don't even think of doing that. You have to think of talking to the people who are actually consuming the animal protein, okay, and tell them that now I've got an environment friendly animal protein, which is a lab grown meat, and this is what you need to consume. I think that's where the market is. And I think there are people who are willing to change for the sake of environment, for the sake of making the earth a better place to live in. And I think that that segment is there. And if even if you are able to capture maybe 20% of it, which is a very, very large market.
Yeah, you're rightly fine put it. Ahmed, I will come to you now. Sir has already given a perspective of the Indian audience and how can be compared with the people who are making it for the audience to try it out. What do you feel from your experience? How the global audience does the global thought process match with the Indian diaspora?
Hey, thanks for having me. I think the concept would be very similar to India. When explaining any novel food technology, it's great to have a celebrity chef on board to advocate for the novel food technologies. The whole idea is of taste good. Will chefs be able to use it the same way as conventional animal products, and the texture and appearance? Those are all going to be very important concepts all around the world when we look for consumer acceptance of these novel food protein products like cell agriculture and cell cultured meat. In general, when we look at how people are aware of the technology, or in terms of people being open to it, there've been lots of different consumer surveys done all around the world looking at that topic, whether it's across Asia or in Europe or North America. And the general consensus of how these surveys, the common consensus of conclusion is that instead of explaining the 1, 2, 3 steps of how these products are made, you take the cells from the animal and you grow them in your facility, instead of explaining the how the products are made, but explaining the why. Why are company scientists looking into producing cell cultured meats when there are animal derived products right there as well? Explaining the why you're doing it, from the potential environmental sustainability, the public health implications, food security, and animal welfare. People more open to the idea of, this is why companies and players are doing this. All right, as long as it has the right taste, appearance, and feasibility for being used, like by chefs, people are open to the concept of cell cultured meats. It's all about explaining the why as well as the how these products are made. And I think that's going to be a common trend all around the world. Something else that's going to be important there is going to be price points. I'm sure we can get down to that later on.
Yeah, India is very, I feel personally that India is on the upper end of a pricing differentiation, that it needs certain products, but not specifically India, also the Asian scenario, APAC scenario is very pro to the pricing of the product. But as per your understanding, Ahmed, when you see companies developing in this domain, the investor portfolio, do you see any traction from people like Harpal sir putting their efforts to understand? Because I have seen Harpal sir putting his personal efforts, his time into this whole thought process. What is your experience or observation on those lines?
Yeah, absolutely. Having well-known celebrity chefs like Harpal sir on board is going to be really important for this field. When companies generally around the world are looking to launch their first cell-cultured meat or seafood products, generally the idea of what these companies are thinking of is partnering with a well-known chef in their country and looking to launch at restaurants. Helping launch through this manner helps consumers get on board with the idea of this is a renowned chef. We support their work. They're trying this novel food technology in their kitchen. They must know how to make it in a really good manner. We should go visit their restaurant, try it out. This is exactly how Impossible Foods and Beyond Meat actually launched in the US initially. So the idea of launching through chefs and restaurant partners is a great way moving forward. In Singapore, for example, the only place right now where consumers can go and buy cell cultured chicken nuggets and other chicken products is currently through restaurant partners of Good Meat, the Eat Just company over there in Singapore. Companies that are looking to launch soon in the US are planning the exact same manner of launch, partnering with chefs and restaurants to initially launch their cell cultured meat over there. So working with chefs and food partners that are advocating and supporting innovation like this is going to be really important for the field.
Yes. Coming back to you, Harpal sir, what do you feel? I've seen you grow in this domain. I personally admire that whole thought process and the story behind it. I am of the understanding that you have seen how soya has entered our kitchens in India, and you have seen that transition happen. Do you think cultivated meat, if it matches the right taste and price expectations, will it be able to penetrate the consumer?
I think definitely yes. The primary thing I would always say is I always tell the plant-based protein guys that do not tell people, the vegetarians especially, because that, I have bought something which is tasting like meat. So the plant-based guy or the vegetarian guy is least bothered because he says that I have never tasted non-vegetarian. So why are you selling me this product? Okay. So one, you are tapping a wrong market. So the plant-based meat products in India, that's why they are lagging behind, because till date, whomever I have met, everybody came with this perspective that we are tapping the vegetarian people to give them a taste of non-vegetarian. Why would you do it? I mean, because the vegetarian guy is least bothered to know that this tastes like chicken because he has never tasted like chicken. But when you come to cultivated meat, you have a market which is a meat eating market. You have to go and tell them the story, like Ahmed said, that why you need to shift, because this brings in little more responsibility, sustainability, and is friendly to the environment, which is why you need to shift. Now, this story, if it is rightly told to people, there will be a shift happening, 110%. I don't see why an educated person will not shift. Now, for the shift, the most important thing is that it should match as close as possible to the taste, texture, look, feel of what he has been consuming for years. If it matches, then you've got a complete winner in hand. And I think that is what the focus of any cultivated meat company is, whether it is India or it is global. Okay, this is a complete scenario, and this is how I think the approach is being used across the world by large companies. People like us, yes, we are, we are there to support all these companies. We are there to tell people, companies, that what is the core, how do you approach the market, what is the right kind of product, did you test it right, did you create a panel of people who consume it in the larger scope of things, did you tell people that okay, take this and cook, because that's how you or the company who's creating the product will be able to understand that did they have the right product before they went to the market. If that is cracked well, then I think you could do it right. I mean, if you create a product and say that okay, I have created the product, now let's go to the market, that will not happen. You have to, sitting in your lab, you have to clearly match an orange to an orange, and then say that okay, I have matched an orange to an orange. Next is, in my testing lab itself, let me create how the geographical area of that particular country consumes the product. Okay, if they consume it in grilling form, is that product working right as a grill product? Is it not becoming chewy? If it becomes chewy, remember, sometimes it might visually match the product. But if a country like, for example, I would say African countries where there's a lot of grill products used, or the Western countries, and if you create grill, if you grill a cultivated meat, lab-grown meat, and that becomes chewy, rubbery, then you're finished. It doesn't work, okay? And even if it is fibrous, you see threads coming out, okay? And again, that is not going to work. If those fibers stick inside your teeth, it's not going to work. These are absolute fine points that we understand as chefs, that how a person consumes, what is his liking, and that, I mean, a visual feel could be matched. You could match a visual feel, but at the end, cook, cook it, grill it, taste it, put it in a curry, okay, put it in a sauce, cook it, keep it in the refrigerator, take it out next day, then recook it and see, is that working? Because in India, that definition is very high, that everybody loves. The first thing I always hear as a chef is, chef, I want to cook and keep it in the fridge. I always tell them, Are Baba, you have cooked, you eat first now. Why do you have to put it in the fridge first? So their first thought is that, is this product, storage friendly?
Mm-hmm.
So there are many of these factors which we define. I mean, having worked with a lot of food products companies, we tell the thought process of the lady, especially in India, who actually controls the kitchen. So what is her main concern? How does she react when she sees a product? So we come with these backgrounds and we understand those fine points. And we share this with people who are actually creating new products. And sometimes it helps. Sometimes people listen. They definitely create a winning product. Sometimes people say, no, okay, we will create a product and go to the market. Then reworking on the product is a long drawn process. And sometimes it takes a hell lot of capital to actually restructure the product after it has failed in the first instance.
Yeah, rightly. Pinpoint thought on those. And Ahmed, I would like to ask you, this is a perspective of a person who makes for the consumer. So do you feel companies in this domain are thinking in the same line, or they are still in a very early stage of how to attach themselves to the consumer?
Yeah, those are really great points right now. I think in terms of what companies are looking at right now, it varies based on the company stage and how early they are in their own development process. At the earlier on stage, they're focusing more on, can we make a viable product that has the right taste, texture, and food experience? But companies more later on in the development process, looking to launch in the next year or so, for example, they're looking absolutely at everything Harpal said about the cooking experience. That's something so important when it comes to this field. Not only can you make a product that tastes good or has the right appearance, it has to match every cooking experience that you want it to do. Without that, you're not necessarily going to have the wide array of uses that conventional animal products can fill right now. You have to be able to cook in very specific ways based on what you want the audience to do, as well as if you want this product to be global and be able to reach different markets. You need to have different players all around the world making products with technology to fit the local cuisine and what people are interested in actually cooking in that country. Not going to feed the world with a bunch of cell-based burgers, for example. You need to be able to make products that fit local cuisines and fit people's personal food choices. In terms of making products that for the food business side, like I mentioned earlier, companies are looking to launch in that B2B, working with restaurant partners or chef partners initially in the cell cultured meat space. One company actually in the US, it's called Wild Type. It's quite interesting. They're looking at doing cell cultured salmon, sushi, and sashimi. So what they're doing is they're packaging and preparing their cell cultured salmon in blocks, in packaged blocks that can send to sushi chefs right away. Because having worked and discussed with chefs the ideal way they would like to receive their sushi to work with. So it's not just about matching the current food experience, but by working with chef partners and restaurants, they can even enhance the experience that chefs receive the product and make it better, have better experience for them as well to work with it compared to, let's say, the conventional seafood or meat product. So there's a long way you can actually go over there.
It's great to see the thought from the global consumer manufacturing side, basically, and you giving an insight on that. I feel the consumer and the manufacturer, they are going in a parallel type of situation where we are unable to understand each other's demand, and we need to figure out a way. And I feel people like Harpal sir we have to catch them and get everything looping in those things, because they will ultimately become our moderators in the line of making it more sensible and market acceptable. coming back to the thought, I just thought a question popped in my mind. How do you see, Harpal sir, that how this product should be labeled? The reason for this question is, in the morning we were talking to Just, we were talking to Mosa Meat, we were talking to Beef Tech, all three big companies in the domain of cultivated meat. Just has already launched a product in Singapore. So we were talking with them, what should be the brand, ultimate brand, because everyone in this domain, companies like us, we are all are of the notion that we do not know how to brand or label this product. And the same discussion was happening in the Ahmed's session also, how policymakers should define it. So we as a company, if I speak of what has happened in the morning, we are of the notion that it should be ultimately labeled as meat. So there should not be any cell-based or cultivated diversification to it. So as a consumer, as a person who makes these items, what do you feel is, will this stick out perfectly with the audience?
So, during the early stages of discussion, I made this statement that, the first mistake, plant-based meat products, these people made the mistake of naming a plant-based thing as meat. Okay. So a plant-based thing can never be a meat. So a lab-grown meat can be a meat, and you cannot digress from there. Simple. It's a clear thing. Now, in small letters, you write lab-grown, cultivated, sustainable, like the organic guys write in one corner, a green dot, mentioning in the other side, organically grown, earth-friendly, etc. All those jargons can happen across in the label, but you are simply selling meat, so it should be meat, and there is no alternative to it. So you can, in your communication languages, you could say, you will probably have to say one very clear thing. Okay. You have to say one very clear thing is an alternative to chicken or goat. That is a very crucial thing. You must not have thought about this right now. Okay. You cannot define meat as meat. For us, meat is goat meat. Okay. And for India, meat is goat meat.
Mm-hmm.
And for India, chicken is chicken. It is not called meat.
Mm-hmm.
So that is another point which you have to seriously think. And all those panel members who are thinking now, or all those companies who want to enter India, have to start thinking the way I have just given them this thought process. You cannot label as meat. Meat is a broad spectrum. Okay, you have to define. Meat means goat meat for us, clear, red. So you have again probably, shortened the span or the audience, because the first guy is that the day anybody has high cholesterol, okay, the first thing that goes out of his plate is the red meat. So your product will also go out of the plate, irrespective of whether you are sustainable, cholesterol friendly, however you name it, it will go out of the product. So this is another thing which everybody has to think, that you cannot label. We in India have never called chicken as meat. For us, meat is goat meat.
It's a very interesting thought, because it rings bell in my mind, and I am going to tell you immediately after this meeting, I'm going to change everything, every nomenclature in my presentations in every way.
Absolutely, you have to do that. I mean, that is where we come. As a chef, as a person who understands the market very well, we know very clearly how it works, how it happens, why it happens, and these points, like Ahmed says, you need to understand the why. So if you understand the why, and this is the first thing you need to understand. If you label it as meat, which means your audience is the goat meat audience. Your audience is not the chicken audience. Remember this.
Right.
It's very clear. I'm very, very clear on this. And you will face this. Okay?
No, your thoughts are giving me a lot of clarity with respect to what feedback we get, and you do not know how much questions you have resolved for us. Ahmed, if I am right, do respond to that.
Yes,
it's fascinating. The idea of labeling is contentious. Is going to be a contentious topic as generally alternative proteins come to market. Looking at Europe and North America, the question of whether plant-based products can use dairy terms like milk has been up in the air for a while. When it comes to the day cell-cultured meat or cell-based meat comes to market, that conversation is going to continue down that road. Essentially, just like Harpal sir said here, these are meat products. We could look under a microscope right now. Conventional meat product and a cell-based meat product will look exactly the same. It's muscle cells, fat tissue, connective tissue, the exact same composition. That's ultimately the idea of wanting to. One thing I will add on as well is similar to how some of these other products, organic, farm raised, all these other labels have a premium to it. Maybe when brands cell cultured meat products have that premium as well initially, as instead of trying to just say in small letters, this is cell cultured, it should be labeled as that. Promoted as a premium product because of that. Hey, this is grown from cells. That means it's more sustainable. It's grown in a safer environment. Here are all the benefits. Let's promote down the road when cell cultured meat, let's say it becomes large scale and economically viable. Then we can explore whether all that labeling may be needed. But initially, there's clear labeling to help consumers be aware of what they're eating, whether it's at a restaurant or road at the supermarket, will be important for them to understand all the different options that are there for them and what they're choosing specifically.
But it's really interesting to see how we started with a thought of discussing how the market would respond, and we are right now with a discussion of how the packaging should be and how chefs and consumers will. I find it on a very positive note, because frankly, when we thought of this session, we had no intention of speaking on those lines and understanding this aspect. I was more into how the global and the Indian consumer would respond to it, and I was expecting some negatives out of it. But Harpal sir gave us a different scenario, which is really interesting to see, and we will make a note of it. Quickly, I know we are already running it, but I will ask a few more questions before I wrap up. Harpal sir, from your experience, have you received any interest from consumers who want to try out?
So I think there is no free education or free information across in the country. So right now, I don't think so. Apart from a very few set of people, which would be minuscule, who understand this whole, lab-grown meat. It is a connotation which I think some of the top chefs or some of the top food technologists and people who are into this subject understand and know. Beyond this, people actually don't know. I would honestly say this. So companies who are thinking of launching it probably 18 months from now should start this subject. And it's a good way of, bringing this whole webinar to probably, educate probably 300 people if they are listening to us. That would convert to 3,000 and more such large audiences. But it's about time. If you are thinking that 18 months is your launch date from now, it is about time that you should have more such interest being raised or more such topics being spoken about. You should also look at how you can reach out to more audience who would be consumers or who would be people who would be cooking this. So I think more than consumers, you should reach out to people who would be cooking this first. So it's a great way to reaching out to some of the top hotel management institutes in the third year and telling them what this cultivated meat is all about, creating seminars for them. Okay, because if you have 300 students passing out, and if you have probably 10 such colleges where you have, educated them, you probably have 3,000 students coming out multiplied by X, Y, Z, and they would be probably serving every day, maybe, 100 people, 50 people, sometimes 1,000 people. Okay. And they would ultimately keep spreading the word about this new ingredient that is there in the market. So I think this is one way of educating the consumer. So it's very important that at this point of time, we must start to begin, talking about lab-grown meats and how they are more friendly, and keep writing notes about them across through various journals, across through webinars, across through people who would be actually cooking. Consumption will happen later, because if you cook, only then consumption will happen. So if people who cook are satisfied by saying that, yes, this is a great product, then there will be consumption happening. So you have to probably reach out to such an audience who is a diehard fan of cooking. And fortunately, in India, we have large numbers. So to begin with, educational institutes is a great path to start the process, which will not cost a lot of money for any company like yours to actually begin the process of education.
I will give this credit to you, because I remember when we were planning to initiate our rounds, you gave us
Yes.
the right direction. So I will upfront give this point to you, and I'm really thankful to you to help us think on those lines of how to enter the market, and we we are already working on those lines. So Ahmed, what do you think? Is the global audience ready to accept the strategy that India has thought of and that the Indian audience works upon?
Yeah, thanks for that question. Moving forward for this field, wherever you are in the world, you will have early adopters that are advocates and supporting sustainable food technologies, and cell-cultured meat will be no different. All over the world, this overall same trends will have to be there in terms of consumer awareness and consumer education. Let the consumers know, like we just discussed, we're working on this novel technology. Here's how we do it, but also here's why we're doing it. And here's how we plan to come to market. We're going to work with some chef partners, with restaurant partners, food institutes as well, to come to market. And this is our plan. Let's start educating the public on getting more interest in this field. And then ultimately, when companies launch, at least the early adopters will be on board right, and following initial success, generally you reach the wider market as companies scale up. I think that'll be a trend we'll see all around the world, initially with restaurant launches and partnership launches. So ultimately, when this field can scale up production to the level where you can be on the shelf at a store, that's ultimate goal.
I have one point on this, Siddharth and Siddharth and Ahmed. I have one point on this. For India, I would say, Siddharth, going to the doctors as promoters for this would be the last point, because the moment you go there, then you have created a product which is meant for patients and not for consumers. Okay, you go to consumers and then probably tell the doctor, you speak now. Because going to the doctor and telling him to promote your product, which means you're asking him to promote the product to a patient and not to the consumer, so that market size reduces suddenly. So I think it's a great way of doing. First, reaching out to people who will consume, and subtly saying that why thing that Ahmed said, that why you should be here, why you should do. Okay, you start at early ages. I mean, just 3 days ago, we read in newspapers that the world, 30% of the world, or more than that, I think, will be obese by 2030. Okay, so this is one subject. So you have certain elements of speaking in the fashion that creates a larger audience. So suddenly you go to a person who's already treating patients, then you're saying that, okay, this product is only for patients and not for consumers. Only when you become a patient, you consume this. So I would say that one should not be doing this. This should be done at a later stage. If you do it early, then your market size reduces largely.
It's the way that we have to identify a node to enter the larger market,
yes.
Work on that node, and then step by step add on more
Absolutely.
Market size.
Absolutely.
I totally agree, and we are already running late, and I'm getting continuous pop-ups. So it was great, and I would love to have more discussions with you both, because it was an interesting session from a perspective which normally companies like us do not think of, and it ultimately impacts the whole process. And thank you to everyone. And especially, I would lastly ask you guys to give a brief wrap up if you want to conclude everything from the market perspective. Harpal sir, from you first.
So for me, I think any new product will see some friction, but I think there will be acceptance if the product is unique. And we all know now we are going through a lot of climate changes. I think it's about time that we look at products which are friendly, sustainable, and create a better place, Earth as a better place to live in. So I would say it is always a great welcome for such a product from my side.
Yeah, thank you. Ahmed, any comments?
Sure. When I like to use the phrase, context is everything. And with food, it matters so much more, especially novel food technologies. When companies in the cell agriculture space, particularly cell cultured meat players, want to come to market, it's all about getting that context right, working with the right partners, chefs, restaurants, communicating clearly what the product is and what its aims are, and then ultimately working on the technology side behind the scenes to come to market in a more viable, large-scale manner. All these things are going to be important for the field's wider acceptance and to enter the market in the right way. And I think that's going to be really important moving forward.
Great. It was a really interesting session, and I hope the audience liked it. Few of my questions already included some of the questions that I can see from the audience. So I have tried my best to answer them as and when they came. So thank you.